And now we can go back to item 12, intersection improvement, Cashmere, Hoon, Worsleys. And I understand we have our team here. I presume that there are some questions in relation to this matter. Yes, Glenn.
Okay, well, thank you for this report. I've just got a couple of questions, and we have had a workshop, which is good. My first is, why is this going to cost 2.820 million, these intersection improvements?
It's a reasonably complex intersection. There's land purchase involved in it as well. The original 900 odd thousand that was in the LTP was really was additional funding that would have been on top of the developer funding. So the developer, as a requirement of their consent, was required to upgrade this intersection when his subdivision got to 260 something lots. The 900 and they would only have to upgrade the intersection to cater for the traffic being developed from the development. We always foresaw that there would need to be additional facilities in the intersection to cater for cyclists, etc. So the 900k that's in the LTP was basically just council's proportion that was foreseen to maybe be needed when the developer was required to upgrade this thing whenever the development got to 260 odd sections. So it is for a major intersection improvement like this that involves a lot of realignment, a lot of curbing work, land purchase, etc. This is the estimated cost based on the detailed design that's now been undertaken.
Thank you. My other question is over the Northern Arterial intersection. If you wouldn't mind explaining that, I think that's quite useful and would be for the whole council over the fact that with the Northern Arterial coming on, it could well have been that some of these improvements may not have proceeded to the same.
Yep. That's correct. At the time that the LTP was put together, the Northern Arterial wasn't certain, and so traffic loadings on Marshlands Road were expected to carry on increasing, and it would have required improvements in that section between QE2 Drive and Shirley. Now that the Northern Arterial is certain and about to start construction, the completion of the Northern Arterial will take significant traffic loading off of Marshlands Road. So that calls into question the need to upgrade Marshlands Road at the current time, as was planned in the LTP, to upgrade it between 2017 and 2019.
Yeah.
So the Northern Arterial will take a lot of traffic off of Marshlands Road. So we perceive that we need to now do further modelling and come back to the 2018 LTP based on the traffic loading that, or the traffic patterns that will eventuate once the Northern Arterial is finished, and review the need for those improvements in the next LTP.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Dave.
Ali?
The downstream mitigations that we've heard a lot about, particularly around the Innes Road area with regards to that stretch from Innes down to Barwick or Berwick. This isn't that area that we're talking about with regards to moving the money from, is it?
No, that project's still in the LTP to do those downstream effect studies and the mitigation measures that come out of that study.
Thank you. The second part of my question is, if it becomes apparent that we do require the money for this downstreaming that we're moving or want to move today, do you believe that money will be available, or will it just be in the pot for negotiation and allocation as per a normal process?
So as part of the 2018 LTP, once we've been able to reassess the network impacts of the Northern Arterial being completed, then if it's needed, it will be put forward as a project for consideration under the 2018 LTP.
Under consideration, just like all the other projects that will... Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Raf and then Yanni.
In terms of shifting some of these other projects, why do we actually need to do that?
Originally, the funds for the Worsleys intersection were out in 2021 to 2023. That was to align with the perceived rate of development.
Yeah.
Obviously now with the Adventure Park being certain. It's underway. And that's, I guess, evidenced by the submission from the Spraden Heathcote Community Board as part of the annual plan. There will undoubtedly be increased cycling movements.
It's
I don't
not
mean
a
that.
question.
I guess the point I'm making is these are quite tiny projects in terms of the overall capital programme, which we know we're only going to deliver 70, 80, whatever %. So there's not going to be a funding issue in terms of the funds to do it. So why if we know that we can actually complete these projects, they're not big projects which might be delayed or run over time. So why don't we just keep doing them?
These have been, so the resolution from council was to identify candidate projects that could be used to fund advancing this intersection into the current financial year, and they are our suggestion of 2 projects that could be utilised to do that. The rest of the projects that are still in the LTP are underway for this current financial year, and there isn't funding or projects within the current financial year that were viewed as candidates that could be used to fund the $2 million that is needed to complete this project this year.
I don't think there is such a thing as there isn't funding. I don't see why we wouldn't just continue with those projects.
Just answered the downstream from QE2 is not really required because it would have eventuated at the same time as the Northern Arterial opening, which is supposed to take the traffic off Marshland anyway. And then you haven't talked about the Fitzgerald Ave one, but that's a similar.
Because there are some changing patterns with traffic, etc. So to have a look at the whole thing rather than just one intersection would be the better way to go. But that's
So there's some sense in actually delaying those 2 projects. Well, not delaying them, but actually reviewing those projects in light of the other issues.
We'll look at them in the holistic view of the whole of the network and the changes that are happening on the network at this current point in time. Well,
Just a
they haven't
financial-
happened yet, but
it's not a
they will be
financial issue.
happening. No.
No.
that's why these 2 were identified.
Yeah. Yanni.
Check. So the total's 2.8 million. You say in the report it's unlikely we'll get NZTA subsidy. So the other projects would qualify for NZTA subsidies, I presume. I don't know about Cash or Fitzgerald, if that's an accessible city project that's not funded by NZTA, or whether that's one that would be. But can you just explain that in terms of the 2.8, how much of that is subsidy from the other projects versus unsubsidised funding?
So the element of subsidy in the other projects would obviously need to go through the normal business case process that we're required to do to secure that funding. When we put together the LTP, the funding that we receive from NZTA is taken at a global level. We haven't done the formal subsidy application for those 2 other projects at this stage. It's envisaged that they would attract funding from NZTA at that time because they qualify for it in terms of safety and congestion benefits. We don't account within the LTP for NZTA funding on a project-by-project basis. It's taken at a global level.
But what's the percentage of funding that we expect to get from NZTA?
For a project that qualifies for funding, it's normally around 50%. That's our standard funding rate for capital projects. So a project that does qualify, for the component parts of that project that are part of the carriageway, if you like, between the curbs, that gets 50% funded. Stuff that's outside of that, so footpaths, etc., aren't. So it's not an absolute. It will depend on the element of the project that is actually falls within NZTA's funding eligibility.
So basically there's another $1 million of subsidy at a global level that we've accounted for that we now need to take off. So it's 3.8 million for this project.
No, this is a total cost. We're going to put in an application to see whether it will get across the line. All we're flagging is that it may not get across the line. So it would mean that 2.8 would come down to maybe 2 with 800,000. I'm not sure exactly how much would be eligible. So what we are going to make is an application to NZTA. We're just signalling to you that we may not get that.
No. So, but what I'm trying to understand, if we go ahead today and we don't get the NZTA funding, it's the cost, it would seem, would be higher than 2.8. It would actually be 3.8 because there's $1 million global subsidy for those 2 other projects that we should discount?
No, those other projects, if they went ahead after we've done the re-looking at the network, would still be eligible for those when we've moved them. So we've just shifted that there. All we're saying is this may be 100% funded by council, or it may get a NZTA subsidy. We cannot guarantee that until we make an application. So the total cost is 2.8. Those other projects will get subsidy if they go ahead in their current form and they get the BC.
If you look at the resolutions under 4, it says removed from the LTP program. So I presume that Audit New Zealand would have a real issue with us removing something from an LTP program and budgeting for an NZTA subsidy. Surely if we take a project out of our program, we also should reduce the expected subsidy.
It's long-term plan though.
Right?
It's long-term plan.
Yeah, so if we take it out of the long-term plan, which these resolutions do, then surely that subsidy should reduce. Like, how would audit ever say that you can claim a subsidy for projects that you've removed?
No, we won't be claiming a subsidy, I'm sorry. The subsidy would go into, as Chris said, at a global level, not at a project by project level.
So at a global level, if we remove these projects from our long-term plan, that subsidy should reduce, right? Because if it's unlikely we get the subsidy for the new project.
If we have a project, the 2.8 go in there. At the moment, we've got 2.8. We're doing it so that basically we are hoping that we'll make an application for subsidy, and so we're hoping that we'll get it. We may or we may not, and that's what really we're signalling. However, so the worst case scenario is that we'll have to find 2.8 million for this project. Best case no, not at this point in time.
So
can you not? Eh?
it's just ridiculous.
Oh, sorry. No, moved by Tim, seconded by Phil.
So the other question I have was just in regards to the removal of these projects. So the question before was, we've got a lot of carry forward. So by removing these projects, which the community haven't had any consultation on, like Cashmere Fitzgerald, why would you not just put them out further rather than remove them from the program?
I think Chris has said that he's going to bring them back into the 2018 once we've got a holistic picture of the network for both those projects. So in actual fact, we probably are.
The question that Yanni's asking is, can they be moved into the 2018-19 year rather than be removed from the program? That's what he's asking.
I'd have to talk to finance, but I don't imagine we could shift. It wouldn't be a problem of shifting some projects forward and some projects back. Help me here.
The whole aspect on this is there's no free lunch. If we want to bring funds into this year without taking funds out, that it will impose an impost. The extent to which we might also be putting at risk contributions from developers and losing NZTA contribution also reinforces that risk. So there's no free lunch.
I think the point that we were making,
the way in which it's been put forward gives you the best consequence for the decision.
I think that the point that we were making was that that would assume that every single item on the capital program was delivered this year, which I'm hopeful that it is, but it hasn't been before. So, which I think was Raf's point.
The next time we do the capital program will be as part of the annual plan. We actually update it, don't we, in the project. So in actual fact, we can bring that back up to you. We don't do the capital program interim, so we can actually look at putting it into that.
So I think the resolution under 4 is what's giving me a bit of trouble, because it says to remove the project from the long-term plan. I was happy to do a swap, the substitution, and actually put it back into the year 2023 or 2022.
I think we just literally swap them.
And that way, we actually enable the subsidy to be calculated in whatever audit happens, because we would expect to.
Can we change the wording of it so that that we're swapping them? So basically, that we reschedule them for the 2021-22 and 22-23 years. As provided for the Cashmere, Hoon, Worsley intersection improvements, but require that they be reconsidered in the 2018 year.
That is effectively what we're proposing, but yes.
Yeah, but what Yanni's saying is that he doesn't want to vote for a resolution that says be removed from the LTP And I think we meet Peter's concern by putting it as a direct swap for an item that's already on the budget.
So it's to be rescheduled?
Yeah.
Moving the lunch
So to be rescheduled, or use the same word, rephased into the 2021, 22 and 22, 23 years. So use the wording from 5. No.
20, 21, 22.
Yeah, just copy those. And then, and leave the words, rephased into the 2021 years, for leave it at that, for reconsideration, the 2018 review and available funds, Yep, all right? Yep. Good outcome. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder. David?
Is that just applied to item 4?
Yeah.
So we're not rephasing item 3?
Well, are we going to reconsider that?
No, because the point of item 3 really was, the understanding that I have is that by the time we plan and get into detailed design for item 3 there, the Northern Arterial's likely to be on stream, and the necessity for that work may be substantially reduced. And in fact, I would have probably gone kicking and screaming about taking budget off our side of town, but I'm convinced that the way we're doing this is makes sense, because the impact on traffic will reduce quite substantially once the Northern Arterial's in phase. I would, however, just add the one little comment that here we are. 1.03 million is being generously donated from the eastern suburbs to the other side of town, and I trust that will be taken into consideration if there's debate on legacy projects and things. Yeah, so we are a generous area, and we're quite happily, in the circumstances that have been outlined to us today, to forego this project in the better interests of the city. So.
Well, we're called to be city councillors, so.
Okay, Phil.
Well, look, I don't think this is like a partisan type decision at all. Clearly the whole city is going to benefit from the adventure park, and it has required some purchase of land and additional funding, and there's no losses at all in terms of the RONS project and also the safety aspects of Cashmere and Fitzgerald at all. So it's a win-win really, in terms of making sure that not only is this project is delivered so that in fact there's good access, good vehicle access and good cycleway access, but that also it comes back to what I guess a safety concern that local residents and Spade and Heathcote have asked for a long time. The intersections never work particularly well, and this is a good opportunity to get it right. So altogether, the whole adventure park is going to be a huge asset to the city. Everybody is going to benefit by what we decide today.
Very good. Tim?
Thank you. Look, adventure park aside, the traffic has changed since the earthquake. Development in the south and southwest is huge. We get a lot more traffic through this area than we have as many other areas do. So this one intersection, actually, the pulsing will improve not only Hackthorne Road, Bengal Drive, Craycroft, but the other areas that are immediately affected as well, like Westmoreland. So I want to thank staff for the work you've done on it, and thank you. It's good.
Very good, Yanni.
Thank you. I'm supportive of upgrading this intersection. I actually think it's good to be proactive and actually address issues before they arise, and it's a shame that we might not qualify for NZTA funding for doing that. But given what's been done in that local area, I think this is a really sensible way forward. The other reason that I actually like the idea that you've identified Cashmere Fitzgerald, haven't taken it off, but have actually put it out to 2021, 2022, is actually, if you think about it, that actually aligns with when hopefully some planning or some thinking around the new stadium, which will have a massive impact on traffic in that area. So spending money on that project now, ahead of knowing the future outcome of the stadium and the design and location and all the other things that are associated with it, actually makes a lot of sense. So, you know, I think this is a really sensible solution. I don't know when we're going to start thinking about the stadium. Hopefully that's not too far away. And hopefully there's a very detailed traffic assessment. I would just say that for that area, there are significant safety concerns with the closure of a number of streets going into the avenues, which will, and the Northern Arterial Extension, which will divert a huge amount of extra traffic around the 4 Avs. That's the whole plan for the Accessible City plan, and it would be really good to understand just how those safety concerns are going to be addressed in line with the major developments in that area. So this gives us time to do that, which is why it's a sensible decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried.